Hello everyone, welcome, namaste. Welcome to this evening's webinar on Autobiography Yogi Daily Wisdom. My name is Brahmachari Devendra, with me is Brahmachari Ramesh. We'll be sharing some thoughts from the book Autobiography Yogi. We present this webinar, this is the book, if you have not read it, please do read. We present this webinar every alternate evenings on Fridays. First, how do we start? We start with some chantings for about 20 minutes, and then we do some meditation for about 10 minutes, and the next half an hour, the last half an hour, we share the wisdom from Autobiography Yogi. We start with the chant first. Let's begin the chant. Take these chants, open your heart with the chants. As you sing this chant with us, don't watch just, but sing with us these chants also. The words will be singing very simple chants of Paramahansa Yogananda ji, or ancient Indian songs or chants. So let's begin with some simple chant. Let's begin with the invocation of God. Let's begin with the very simple mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I bow to the Lord Krishna. I bow to Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This chant is Om Guru, Om Guru, Om Guru, Om. Remembering Guru as we chant this chant. Guru, Om 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 Guru. Let's pray together. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, Friend, Beloved God, Great Masters of Kriya Yoga, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashay, Swami Shri Yukteswar Ji, Paramhans Yogananda Ji, Saints of all religion, humbly we bow to you all. Divine Mother, open our hearts, fill us with thy peace, thy joy, and thy love. May we share thy peace and joy with everyone. Om. This chant is again very simple. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Written by Paramhans Yogananda Ji. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee.
So we will take this chant into meditation. The words of this chant are: I am Om, I am Om, omnipresent I am Om, all pervading I am Om, all blessed I am Om. Om, Om, come to me, oh come to me. Divine Mother, come to me, oh come to me. Please join. Come to me. Divine Mother, come to me, come to me, come to me. I am home, I am home, I am home, I am home. Omnipresence, I am home. All pervading, I am home. All blessed, I am home. Come to me, come to me. Divine Mother, come to me, come to me. I am home, I am home, I am Let us now prepare ourselves for a short meditation by tensing our body and relaxing. Focus all tension and let it go. Now sitting straight, let us observe our breath. We'll do that for a few minutes and then enjoy for a few minutes. Let us meditate now. Let go of all your worries. Let us now close with visualizing and sharing the blessings of this meditation with everyone throughout this world. Let us rub our palms and chant Om 3 times. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Okay, hello friends, welcome again. It's always a joy to have people with whom we can share these wonderful teachings from the Autobiography of a Yogi. And interestingly, the 3 sayings which I have picked today are from our Param Gurudev, that is the Guru of Yogananda Ji, Sri Yukteswar, who was known as a Jnana Avatar because he was a fountain of wisdom. Okay, so I will start with a first saying which ties us to harmony and peace. February 25. The saint who uncovers the secret of creation will be in harmony with its countless bewildering expressions. All men may approach that understanding who curb the inner passion for destruction. Isn't that interesting? That all men may approach the understanding of being in harmony with everything only by curbing the inner passion for destruction. And let us give a little bit context when Sri Yukteswar Ji said this to Yogananda. They were basically dealing with a mosquito. And so Yogananda Ji was listening to Sri Yukteswar Ji and he saw a mosquito on his hand and he just was going to kill it because he was irritating his such an harmonious conversation with his Gurudev. And as he was going to kill that mosquito, he stopped remembering ahimsa. But Sri Yukteswar Ji said, why not just go ahead if the act was committed in the mind? So that is where each and all of our actions begin. The inner passion for destruction. So, but the saints who uncover the secret of creation, they are in harmony with everything. For example, let us take the life of Yogananda Ji. He once, with a group of his boys of Ranchi school, he was traveling at night through a forest region. And interestingly, he came across a place where they were in a cottage, but there was a wild tiger roaming around. And everyone was scared, but Yogananda Ji, being the saint he was and being calm and always peaceful, in command of himself, he went out and in his very own presence, the tiger became like a tame cat and kind of rolled on the ground, and Yogananda petted him and the tiger went away peacefully. That is, in his own calm presence, the tiger was harmonious with him, because the saints see the world in a different way than we see us. They see it as divine. For them, each and every one of us have achieved our true potential, because for them no time exists in the past and no time exists in the future, only in the eternal now, where they see all as a play of God. Even in the example of disciples of Yogananda, they might not have been at his own level, but even in their own understanding of curbing inner passion for destruction, they achieved such harmony that their influence was great. One such story is of one of the disciples of Yogananda, who with his family and some of his relatives with their children were going from ship to Canada via America. So what happened was, when the ship was going, there was a great storm going on and the ship was completely going topsy-turvy. Everyone was feeling sick, the children were scared. But this person, who was not that much in touch with Yogananda, but he was quite, you can say, in tune with the teachings, he took the children, some of the people, into the cabin, and he just used his voice and said, everything will be alright. He used the soothing vibrations, emanated peace, and said, everything will be alright. There will be no harm to you. And just listening to his voice, who was affirming harmony, rather than battling the storm, he was trying to affirm harmony. And in that way, all the children calmed down. And eventually, even the storm passed. And this story stands out because even though there was storm and everything, the person was able to remain calm. And when you are able to remain calm, that brings about the harmony. Also, There's another story of Swami Kriyananda in the book Swami Kriyananda as we have known him, where he was actually had to play a tambura, which was to begin with quite dissonant. Somehow its tuning was not set properly. So Swami Kriyananda tried as much as he can to make the tambura in tune with the harmony of other instruments, but it just won't work. But as the time passed on, the tambura just started becoming completely in tune without any dissonance. That is, he was having such harmony and such patience that even the tambura became tamed in his presence, that even the tambura's consciousness of dissonance melted into harmony. And how do we reach that harmony ourselves? Meditation is a good way, but more importantly being centered in our own spine, because spine is the gateway to self-realization. Spine is where all our energies go, and spine is where we have all our centers of energy. So if we calm our hearts, and the technique for that most excellent one is Kriya Yoga. So if you haven't learned it, do go for it. And as Yogananda ji used to say, that by this practice of inner calmness, peace and steadfastness, we can remain unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds. With that, I will pass to Devendra ji.
This line from Autobiography Yogi is from chapter 12, and the date is February 22nd for today's reading. So here Shukteswarji says, is the whole world going to change for you? Change yourself. So a very simple line that Shukteswarji is telling Yogananda ji, and there is a whole wisdom in it. The essence of the yoga is in it. I'd like to read it again. Shukteswarji says to Paramahansa Yogananda ji, is the whole world going to change for you? Change yourself. I heard just some days before somebody saying that many people want to serve and help God, but only in advisory capacity. That they want to advise God how He can change the world and how He can make it better, but they don't want to do anything. So this is the thing that why do we think that we should change the world but not to ourselves? It's because it seems like it's easy to change the world than changing ourselves. But in fact, it's opposite. It's easy to change ourselves than changing the whole world. You cannot change the whole world completely. Whatever you can do, try it. You cannot change even one or two persons. But it's easier to change yourself. Why do we think that it's easy to change the world than changing ourselves? I'll come to this point in a moment. Somebody asked, one time Yogananda ji asked to his disciples, he gave the disciple to some tasks to do so. And the disciple thought for a moment and he said that, Master, I cannot do it. But you can do it, you are a master. And Master replied, what do you think made me a master? And it was by doing, he said that. It was not by just thinking and wishing. It was by doing it. So a great master, when they have come, they are teaching us, the first thing they have done is they have mastered themselves. They have reformed themselves instead of wishing the whole world to change. So this is our first job also on the spiritual path, that to change ourselves, reform ourselves, than changing the whole world, than wishing to change the whole world. And as I was saying that, why do we think that it's easy to change the world than changing ourselves? It's because our energy, our mind, thoughts, consciousness, it's all going outward. We are so much aware of the world than we are aware of ourselves. So because of that we think that this world is easy to change than changing ourselves. Once we become more aware of ourselves, once we withdraw that energy, the consciousness, our mind to ourselves, we'll find that it's easy to change ourselves, and that's how the process of change begins. Now, when we are talking about Shukteswarji is saying to Yogananda ji, change yourself, he's not just saying bring some little positive change, good habit in yourself. But what he's asking is that reform yourself, completely change yourself inside out, then outside in. So he's not talking about some small habits to change, bringing some positive qualities in yourself, But what he's asking is to bring bring the divine qualities, communing with the divine, becoming one with the divine, and that's how we can change completely. Now, here's some of the things that fine points that we can look into. Swami Kriyananda, when he came to Paramahansa Yogananda ji, and of course, when he came to Master, Master would tell him that be in tune, be in tune. And Swami Kriyananda ji, he wanted to bring the quality of humility in himself, and um, he practiced it so much that one day he woke up and he found himself that he was becoming proud of his humility. And later on, he heard Master Yoganandaji saying to him that, look, and as Swamiji was becoming proud of his change, becoming change in himself, Master one day told in front of everybody that, look how I am changing Walter, how I have changed Walter. And Swamiji understood that he is changing not because of just his practices, his efforts, but also because of Guru's grace. Now, so this is the fine point, this is the key point here, that of course we have to put our self-effort, of course we have to do practices, meditations, Kriya Yoga, all the things we have to do, affirmations, visualizations, all the things we have to do. But finally, what brings the final change is that Guru's consciousness, is Guru's grace. And so the key point is, when we want to change ourselves, when we do the practices, when we do meditations, Kriya Yoga, pranayams, all the things, we should be doing as an attunement, as a way to attune with the Guru. And as we attune ourselves to the Guru, that's what will change us finally and permanently and forever. And so what can change us is, of course, not just our own effort, but company of good people, company of spiritual people, the people who meditate, who love God. And if we live in the company, that will inspire us, that will keep us going. But just again, our practices, that what we practice, meditations, that is central. And then, of course, we go in the company of the good people, those who will inspire us to tune into Guru's consciousness. So, as I'll conclude with that line that Master says in poem in Samadhi, it's the Guru given deeper and longer meditations that brings the final Samadhi, final state of Samadhi. And with that final state of Samadhi, the final change, the final divine change comes within us. So, and as we practice Kriya Yoga, we find ourselves that our tendency to change the other people, change situations or circumstances is less than changing ourselves. So Kriya again comes to the central point to reform, to change ourselves, but with the grace of the Guru.
This quote is from February 16th in this app. Attachment is blinding. It lends an imaginary halo of attractiveness to the object of desire. This was Sri Yukteswar Ji on his very first or second meeting with Yogananda, young Mukunda, telling him some story but with a moral. So this was the moral, that attachment is blinding. It lends an imaginary halo of attractiveness to the object of desire. Now, if we just look at our advertising industry currently, doesn't it really literally put halo around the object that they advertised? An imaginary bright halo, like this is the very exact food that will give you eternal bliss. That's what they try to emphasize. But it is a clue for us, like what is exactly attachment? How does it come into being? We think that some X thing or some Y person might give us a sense of fulfillment or happiness. And when we really get obsessed with that very thing in expectation of that happiness, we get attached to it. And when we are attached, there is a conscious force trying to keep us away from God, because that's how this creation is, duality, ups and downs. So that conscious force makes us think that that thing is literally going to give us happiness, but our own experience tells us that it doesn't really work out that way. For example, Shri Yukteswarji was sharing the story that he became obsessed with a dog which looked ugly to everyone else, but to him it looked quite good because he felt that the dog would in some way give him happiness. And so he just was adamant on having that dog no matter what. And how do we tackle this attachment to anything, basically, even as something as good as some particular habit? How do we give and tackle that thing? Zooming out little bit helps. Taking a view from, say, a bird's eye view. If you go on a mountain and see the village below, you will have a different perspective than being in the village and looking around. That way, if we just observe ourselves, introspecting, observing our thoughts, but more importantly, observing our feelings at the heart, that when I'm trying to gain something or basically try to be in possession of something, how are my heart's feelings? Am I freer? Am I calmer? Or am I being agitated? Am I being restless? That will be a hint of what we are moving towards, whether we are moving in the direction of greater happiness or more and more sorrow. Because Paramahansa Yogananda ji laid it out in simple words that what each and every human action is based on is wanting to be happy and trying to avoid pain. So it all leads from that very basic desire that we all want to be happy, and we think that something outside of us will give us that happiness. It never ever goes to that. As in countless incarnations, in countless different tries, we just find out one thing after another, one particular path after another. We see that it doesn't really give us anything unless we turn inward, because that is the source of all true happiness. And I would like to add that in my own personal experience, once I had this very literal example of this imaginary halo of attractiveness. I was obsessed with a particular life direction that I wanted to take, and I gave considerable energy to it and was just close to achieving it, which is when I started looking inside and wondering, is it really right? Is it really going to give me that happiness which I think it will give me? Because when we are really focused on achieving something, we always look ahead. We always looking that when I reach that point, I will have happiness, but we don't really pay attention to how our way is walking towards it. We think that when I reach there, then I will be happy, and it never turns out that. So in my case, even before reaching it, I was like, you can say, just 1 or 2 steps on completing the ladder. And I asked myself, what is going on here? And I watched my heart, and it wasn't really calm, and I felt that I should let it pass. And I didn't have this understanding. It was divine grace which gave me that understanding. So I let it pass. You kind of say I released it like a balloon which is tied below. I just cut the rope and let it fly away. And trust me, I felt so free, so happy by letting go of something which I thought will give me happiness. So similarly, we should always ask what is going on our hearts while trying to do something, while trying to make any decisions. Is it really an imaginary halo, or this is what really God wants us? Because as he was telling, attuning to our Guru, attuning to our divine purpose in life will always lead us to the right thing, not outward things, not imaginary attractiveness. Ask your heart, ask God. The calmness or the restlessness of your heart will give you the clue. With that, I will move to Devendra ji.
Thank you, Ramesh. So our next reading is from February 23rd from this app. Now here again, this is from chapter 12 of Autobiography Yogi. Here Shri Yukteswarji says, he says, a yogi must be able to pass into and continue in the superconsciousness regardless of multitudinous, this is a big word, multitudinous distractions never absent from this earth. Whether in the buzz of insects or pervasive glare of daylight, the testimony of the senses must be barred. Sound and sight come then indeed, but to words fairer than banished Eden. Now here, Shri Yukteswarji is talking about that how senses keep us engaged in the word. And of course, this word is designed to keep us engaged. There are so many things that draw our attention continuously all the time and promising us, giving us fulfillment, giving us happiness all the time. Wherever we go, we see so many things, looking at the billboards and advertisements of all sorts of things. Wherever we go, I see advertisements everywhere. I mean, where you go, if you go in the flight, if you go in the train, if you go on the highway, if you go on the Facebook, if you go on the YouTube, if you go on anywhere, you will find advertisements everywhere, directing us, telling us, I can give you happiness, I can fulfill you. And they draw our senses outside ourselves. And our goal on the spiritual path is how to remain centered, how to remain keeping our senses within ourselves. And so this is a test. We can consider this as a test of the spirituality, how much we have grown spiritually, that how much things are able to draw us from within ourselves, from within to our outside ourselves. And this is true actually. This is not something modern times. Don't think this is just something happening in the modern times. If you think of Bhagavad Gita, if you think of Bible, they were written thousands of years back. But why the teachings of those ancient scripture is still valid? Do you think that distractions were not at those times? They were still there. There were still distractions. Don't think this is a modern time and there are so many distractions. No. If you are applying, if your thinking is still considering Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga, if you are still considering Bhagavad Gita and applying in our daily life, why they are still valid? Why, if they were valid 2000 years back, 3000 years back, but why they are still valid? It's because our restlessness remains the same. Outward things can change from one thing, modern technologies, to other things, but our restlessness is same. It just, outward things changes the form, but our restlessness remains the same, basically. So it's nothing new about that. That our senses are trying to get us out from within ourselves. It's nothing new about it. It was there long back and it still exists. And so this is the test for us in this lifetime, that how much we can remain within ourselves. Now, one story to illustrate, to take us further, is again the ancient story of King Janak and Shukdeva. That Sukadeva, he was a very accomplished yogi as a child, even in his mother's womb, when he was few years old, maybe 5 or 10 years old, he had mastered all the scriptures, but yet he was not fully realized. So his father himself was a very accomplished yogi, but he was not satisfied. So he went in search of a great yogi who can teach him the greatest thing on the earth, which is self-realization. So he heard of King Janak, and he went to King Janak, and there are two stories I'll share with you one this evening. That when he went to King Janak gave him a lamp filled with oil, and he says that go in the palace and see everything in the palace, but yet don't spill even a single drop of oil from this lamp. The lamp was filled to the brim. And now King Sukadeva, the yogi Sukadeva, he went to the whole palace, but his mind was all the time focused on the lamp. That he was so worried that he will spill the oil on the floor. And so he went all around the palace, but he did not observe anything. He did not enjoy anything. He comes back and King Janak asks him, what did you see in the palace? He says, I didn't see anything in the palace. That my mind was so focused within myself that I did not see anything in the palace. And so King Janak asked him, go again and try. And this time pay attention. See what you can do. And now this time again, Sukadeva was successful. He saw everything in the palace. And he came back without spilling a single drop of the oil. Now what is the oil in this story? What is the palace in the story? The palace is this word which is which likes to keep our consciousness out, which asks us to enjoy this palace. And the oil is our consciousness, that we lose our consciousness, we go to the palace, we just enjoy the luxurious life. We want to have a luxurious life, we want to enjoy things, we want to enjoy the world, and so we forget the inner consciousness. And so Master says, Yogananda ji says that some yogis go to the Himalayas and they forget the word, they forget to serve the word. And some yogis and many people, they remain in the word, they forget themselves then. They just want to serve the word, but they forget themselves. And here is the balance of the teachings, that how we can remain in the word, but not to lose the inner consciousness. And this is the goal of the yoga. The goal of the yoga is not to run away to the Himalayas, but the goal of the yoga is to how we can be in this world, but not be of it. Not to belong this world, but keeping our consciousness centered within ourselves. So this is the goal of the yoga. This is the great master Paramahansa Yogananda ji is teaching. This is the great teachings of Babaji. All the great masters in our line, that they are teaching that how you want to serve the world, but at the same time how you want to keep your consciousness inside. So this is the crux of the Kriya Yoga teachings. The first thing, but again the first thing is going within ourselves, and then with that consciousness we want to serve the world.
Going within. So there's another way which Devendra ji said, that how do we keep our consciousness intact, being in the world but not of it. So with this I will come to the next quote. Again Sri Yukteswar ji is not mincing his words. He's telling, medicines have limitations, the creative life force has none. Believe that you shall be well and strong. This he was telling to Yogananda ji when he was young Mukunda, and he was very thin, and Yogananda ji thought and was suffering from chronic dyspepsia for quite long time. He was very thin and he had stomach ailments. But Sri Yukteswar ji told him that all of your medicines on your shelf, they have limitations, but the creative life force has none of it. It is infinite in its applications. So he said, believe that you shall be well and strong. And within 2 weeks, Yogananda ji became the way we know him, which is completely healthy and full of, you can say, body mass, but more than that, full of beauty. And there is some truth to it. Isn't it worth exploring that just by believing we can change our body chemistry, just by believing we can change everything which affects us, and just by believing we can keep our consciousness strong and steadfast in this world, because a strong mind doesn't get influenced by the countless influences which come towards it. Of course, good company helps, but when we are alone, the master is always with us, so we should always have a strong mind. For that, affirmations help. Affirming good health, affirming strength of will, it helps. One of my professors, when I was in college, he met with a very serious bike accident and he broke his leg completely. But he had a very strong will. He went to some doctors who said, we will put together a leg, but don't expect it to work as before. It won't be good. You won't be able to walk properly ever again. And that was most of the doctors were telling him. But he said, I don't care. I don't believe you guys. I believe in the cosmic force. And by that belief, he said, my leg will be strong. And he went to another doctor who was kind of neutral and he did the appropriate treatment. But even that doctor was kind of little bit telling that your leg won't be well again. But he didn't let those thoughts, those negativity, those weak will affect him. He kept to his will, saying that his legs will be well again, and it became well in 5 days. No one could believe it, but that is the power of creative life force, that if you believe that you will be well and healthy, you will be well and healthy, and trust me, it works. Even in my case, not as great in magnificence or significance, but even when I had certain illnesses, a doctor looked at my blood reports and said that you should be admitted in the hospital because you are not well. But I had some personal biases, you can say, attachment to not going to hospitals. So I said, I won't go to hospital, give me whatever medicine you want to, but I won't go to hospital, I'll rest and get well. So during this time, I used an affirmation of Yogananda ji, which is, I will with the divine will To be healthy, to be well. To be spiritual and prosperous, to be well, to be well. And I repeated this affirmation with belief, with conviction, and my health improved without the application of medicines, but my health improved and I was well within few days. And I didn't need to go to the hospital, which if I had went, I'm sure it would have taken quite more time to get well. And I would like to add also some more things, that in our path we have the energization exercises, which are actually geared to train our will, to direct our energy to each and every part of our body. And the principle is that greater the will, greater the flow of energy. So if we will ourselves to be strong and well and direct energy to that thought, it works. But above all, the creative life force has no limitations. And what is this creative life force? Master said that love is the power which brought this creation into the existence. So love is the creative life force. So if we really want to have no limitations, keep having the love of God in your heart and everything will be well. With that, friends, we'll end today. Thank you very much for attending. It's always a joy to have you all. And please join us next time, same timing, the alternate Friday. Thank you very much. Joy to you.